Hi, I'm Brandon Owen, founder of KLOwen Braces. In this podcast, we're going to discuss how digital custom braces can really unlock massive efficiencies in your practice.
OrthoMarketing.com, 360-degree digital marketing solutions for your practice.
Hello, everybody at Podcast Land. This is Dean Steinman from Ortho Marketing, and we are back with another awesome, super terrific podcast for you. And I'm very excited to have a very special guest with me today. I have Dr. Owen. Dr. Brandon Owen is the CEO of KLOwen, an orthodontic technology company, and we're here to talk about trends, talk about digital transformation, and the overall industry. So, Brandon, thanks so much for joining. Appreciate it.
I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, my pleasure. So, let's just kind of jump in. Brandon Owen, tell us who you are. What's your story?
So I came out of ortho school in 2006, and I bought a practice. It was pretty small. We were kind of trying to grow that, and really my my kind of stumbling into entrepreneurship really came in the form of being unhappy with what aligners could deliver back in 2006. I was just finishing these cases up, and it was my own, now knowing more about like the great educators out there who are teaching people how to use aligners effectively, I was rubbish. I mean, I was terrible. And so every case I would finish up, I'd be like, can you just let me put braces on for like 3 months? Like I just can touch up. I can get things so much better. And, those adult patients more often than not are like, no, it's good enough. And so I just felt very unfulfilled. And it was my GAC rep that just walked into my door and showed me a type it out with the Innovation L lingual brackets. Right. And so I said, well, I probably can do better than I'm getting with aligner. I'm probably going to be able to treat better with these lingual brackets than I could with aligners. Right. And so sure enough, I started doing tons and tons of just MTM, kind of anterior tooth alignment with lingual. And it was a great, it wasn't perfect, but it was better than I could get with aligners back then. Right. I could make $4,000 to $5,000 on a case that usually took 6 months because it was just some simple alignment things. And so then they kind of, evidently I was doing more of the Innovation L than anyone in the US. And so I became their lead digital trainer or lead clinical trainer for lingual. Yeah. And so I got to go all over the world lecturing, tons in Europe, which is a lot of fun. Right. And then they just started kind of spending more and more time with me, coming out to visit my office. And I had some interesting technologies and things that we'd incorporated into practice. And then they kind of said, well, maybe would you mind kind of being our lead clinical consultant for digital orthodontics? And I was like, sure, but digital orthodontics could mean so many different things, right? We were kind of converting from paper charting to digital. We were converting from analog film-based x-ray machines to digital. And so really what I kind of boiled that down to is, well, let's really think about like CAD/CAM delivery of fixed appliances. And so that's where I kind of really put all of my attention and, tried everything on the market you could think of that was digital indirect bonding, lingual, labial, custom, just digital indirect bonding with standard braces. And so I kind of just got to see the whole kind of spectrum of what the possibilities were. And that was really kind of the foundation for kind of our concept of intelligent full custom.
So where was your aha moment that you just woke up one day and said, you know what, I don't want to be a orthodontist, I want to put the entrepreneur hat on and can do my own thing. So how did you wake up? Was that just a wake up morning, or did this happen over time? Because it's pretty big, drastic to go from one extreme to another there,
Huge. So, having that role as kind of their digital consultant, I was spending usually 10 hours a week, either in face-to-face meetings or Zoom meetings or phone calls with the GAC Dent Supply engineering team or the sales and marketing team on product development and other things. And so, originally this was what now is KLOwen was going to be hopefully a product offering that GAC was going to make the bracket of the future for them.
Okay.
And then when some of their leadership team turned over, so when their top executives left and when the top executives leave and new executives come in, they tend to kind of force out the whole C-suite and the management roles get kind of changed over. And so what was kind of a priority at the company essentially got put on the back burner for a period of time that they said, oh, maybe in 2 or 3 years we can kind of circle back around. And in digital, that's an eternity. I'm like, you can't wait for this technology for 2 to 3 years.
Okay.
So that's when I just said, well, I'm going to go out and try and find and develop partnerships with the people that I need to kind of do this myself. And so, I met with a lot of manufacturing companies. I met with a lot of 3D printing companies and was helping them develop some of the internal processes around indirect bonding, the software that we need to actually execute on a digital custom solution. And so rather than building the software and building the bracket and building, the 3D printing technology from scratch, I just went out and found kind of the people who were best in class in the field and said, hey, can we collaborate and work together on building this pathway towards what I think is intelligent digital custom? That's kind of what we name KLOwen.
Okay.
Because the one big thing when I was coming, because I also, basically I kind of got offered contracts with 3M, with American, and with GAC as I patented this idea, because I think they all saw that, hey, we need to have some sort of customization as the future of fixed appliances. But digital custom in braces was actually kind of a 4-letter word to an executive, because you had all of these other players that tried it and lost tens of millions. Every one of them, everybody that tried making custom braces lost tens of millions of dollars in that endeavor. And so what I learned is digital indirect bonding is not enough. Just getting a stock bracket and off-the-shelf solution on the teeth in the right position does not give you huge clinical efficiencies. And it was actually really great. We were talking to a doctor out of Las Vegas a couple of weeks ago, and he had kind of made that migration in a really busy practice to digital indirect bonding. He's like, do you know what I learned? Is that I was actually pretty good at direct bonding. It didn't really shave off any significant amount of doctor time or significant amount of time in treatment going from, he's like, I got to be a pretty good direct. That's the one thing he learned from digital indirect bonding. Right. And what you do get is you get to delegate that bonding appointment. But when I think back to aligners,
right,
how much of the efficiency of aligners is the fact that you get to delegate attachment delivery to your assistant instead of you having to put the attachments on yourself, versus the fact that that appliance was made custom for that patient. And that's where you see the big savings, is eliminating all the detailing bins, eliminating repositioning appointments. That's why aligners are so compelling, is once you get those attachments on the teeth, as a doctor, I don't have to do hardly anything of a heavy lift to get people through treatment.
What did you see as the biggest hole in the market in order for you to take this step? Because there are a lot of players, and a lot of people have started and failed. So, what was the one opening that you saw that you said, I got to get in there in order to facilitate it?
So it really had to do with seeing what custom appliances could do. My favorite appliance in terms of delivering a really good quality outcome, if you follow the protocols specifically, was Incognito, which is a lingual product. It was $2,700 a case. But the tolerance between the wire and the bracket slot was so precise. Now, when we had a patient come in, my staff would all run the other direction because it was very challenging to actually ligate and use Incognito. And lingual in general is a little bit of a conundrum, I think, just as a whole for staff. But that was like, wow, this custom braces can really, like, the marginal ridges were perfect. I rarely had to put even a single bend in the case. And I'm like, holy cow, I know this could work.
Wow.
But I also know that making something from scratch takes way too long, and it costs way too much money, right? It's so expensive to make 28 little custom pieces and then put them in exactly the right place. And so finding a way to index those and get them delivered to the teeth in exactly the right position. And so, I like to use the shoe analogy to kind of describe how we use braces today, how some of those custom technologies, and then where we fit. Because to me, it's all about just optimally engineered products. And so when I think of the systems like the other custom systems that I used in the past, is I would say they were so over-engineered, it's not even funny. They were doing so many things. The manufacturing cost was high. And if you were to walk into a shoe store, it would be like finding a shoe store that said, hey, I don't have any shoes here in the store, but I'm going to sit down with you. I'm going to measure your right foot. I'm going to measure your left foot. And then you're going to come back and see me 7 weeks later, and I'm going to charge you $1,300 for this pair of shoes.
Right.
How many shoe stores do you know that are in the marketplace today that are running on that model? You probably could find one if you have a really abnormally shaped foot. Then probably
Right.
there are companies that exist, but
Right.
by no means is that the 99% of the population solution, right?
Correct.
What we do with braces today would be like walking to a shoe store where the shoe salesperson says, I only carry size 15. It's all we stock. It's a one size fits all.
Right.
But I, as a salesperson, am going to sit down with you and I have some foam here, and I'm going to sculpt this foam over the next 2 or 3 hours and make it serve as a conduit between this shoe and your foot. You're still walking around with clown shoes. You still aren't controlling all the torque with these conventional systems. So it's better than nothing, but by no means is it an efficient solution. And so when I think about how do we actually purchase things like shoes, do you think of the I&M engineers and the marketing and sales people that have come up with optimally delivering a customer experience around shoe sales and an optimal experience around a profit model where you can actually afford a custom fitting pair of shoes for a reasonable price, and you can get it pretty much on demand anywhere. And so that's how we built this. Is we actually make all of the braces ahead of time. So we have this kind of catalog of brackets that have different torques. So every 10 degrees, there's a new bracket shape. So if depending on where the tooth is, if you need to move it this way, then a new bracket will be selected in this much. So we always have less than a 0.2 millimeter gap between that bracket and the tooth surface. It's just that a new shape would get kind of formulated. And then we also have different thicknesses for the bracket. And so think about the shoe where you can get a narrow, a medium, or a wide. That's our bracket thickness variations. And then the other direction, we've got size 9, 9.5, 10, 10.5, 11. Right. So we just have all of those pieces already. And so you put the teeth exactly where you want them to go. And then the software is going to select the perfect shape bracket from our catalog. So you always have a perfect intimate fit between that bracket and the tooth surface. And when you glue the bracket to the tooth surface, even the last couple of degrees are going to be customized in that prescription by the adhesive when you glue the bracket on, like a shoelace. And so when you go to the shoe store, you pick the right size shoe, narrow, and I need a size 9.5. And then when I tighten the laces, I get the last 5% of customization. So we're able to offer full custom, but it's done in a way that we can actually sell this for the long term and not have to triple the price of our product, 3 or 4 years from now when we've run out of VC funding and we actually have to show that we have a viable business model. We've got great gross profit margin projections at our current pricing. So I hated that I get kind of the rug pulled out from underneath me. I'd start using some of these new technologies and they come out and say it's X price point, and then 2 or 3 years later when they actually had to show that they could make some money on this thing, it was double or triple the price.
Oh, right.
So when you invest in technology like that and totally switch the platform of how your office runs, that's a massive risk of kind of that, okay, now we're kind of getting market penetration, we're pricing to scale versus now we're actually pricing to be a business. And if you're in the crosswinds of that, sometimes as a doctor, you can find it can put a huge hit on your P&L. I mean, it can be a massively impactful thing. So that's how I kind of think of it as just as optimally engineered. We're giving you all the customization, but we're doing it at a price point where you can do this for every single patient and not even have to think, is it worth spending the extra money on custom here or not? It always is because of the efficiencies that we save.
Yeah. What would you say is the number one frequently asked question when you're bringing this into a practice and then trying to, educate and walk somebody into somebody that they don't know you exist? What's the number one question that somebody asks you or your sales guys that always needs to be answered? Number one.
I think is indirect bonding enough?
Okay.
So I think number one is a lot of people think, well, I like this bracket. I like whatever feature about this bracket. I'm used to this bracket.
Right.
So that's, I think, kind of step one is I can give you 6 softwares right now that you could go out and buy or that you could use on a kind of click per case basis that could give you a good digital setup and provide a digital indirect bonding solution. But what I will tell you is without customization, you're not going to get that much efficiency. You really aren't. You might shave off a month or two of treatment time. You might shave off one visit. But right. I actually did the studies in my own office and it really wasn't that impactful. So it has to be digital, but it also has to be custom if you really want to see things kind of scream. And And I guess the best way to compare that back to aligners again is, what if you had aligners, but you only offered a Damon prescription in aligners, where this tooth had to be at this torque and this tooth had to be at this torque?
Right.
You'd end up with a train wreck. Every case would be a total disaster.
Right.
Aligners are so great because they have the digital custom prescription that's best simulated on the outcome for that patient, not based on this torque value or this torque value. No, you put the teeth where they belong, and then you design the appliance around that. Right. And that's how we kind of reverse engineer is you put the teeth where you want with our system, and we're going to reverse engineer the braces to get you there.
From a end user's perspective, the patient's perspective, what are they seeing different compared to using Invisalign or any of the other appliances out there? How is this changing their smile? Because at the end of the day, I go to an orthodontist, I don't care what you do, just make me smile better, make my teeth straighter. So what's in it for them in order to do this? Or do they even care? They just come into the orthodontist and say, get me straighter, whatever it is, I'll pay you $5,000-$6,000, whatever, and blah, blah, blah.
No, it's a huge part of what we do and why we do it is, we want everybody to win. The cool thing about this kind of business model with customization is that really everybody wins. The doctor wins, the clinical team wins, the treatment coordinators win, the front desk wins. And the reason is it's fewer visits. We had a white paper that we published back in November, and we now have really good clinical data to say, hey, we took our first 4 offices that did over 100 cases submitted to us, and we put them on Gauge, which is a big data analytics platform, and we monitored how their custom braces finishes were tracking compared to what they were doing before, their analog braces. So there's no cherry picking. We didn't drop anybody from the study. It was the first 4 that did 100 cases. We put them in. We took basically 30 of their consecutive cases or more of their analog, and then we said, and now 2.5 years later, we started tracking their custom. So we don't just cherry picking the easy cases. And what we found is that treatment lasted 31% less time with our custom system across these 4 offices. And there were 400 patients included in this study. So it was a pretty robust study data set for a company as early in the stages of launch as we were. So to be able to go to a patient and say, you know what, the cool thing is we're leveraging technology that is going to get you through treatment based on what the data is showing so far, 31% faster. And that's before we were even teaching them how to use the system. We're actually, now showing techniques that help you cut off another visit or potentially make treatment even more efficient. So say we can get up to 50% less time in braces, and we're not moving the teeth faster. And this is what we love telling patients in that treatment coordinating room is we're not changing biology. There's no miracle like biological enhancement that's happening. It's just moving the teeth more directly and precisely. So if you think about like taking an airplane and flying from LA to New York, conventional braces is like having 8 connecting flights along the way.
Good analogy, right? Okay.
And so with custom, it's the direct flight, right? So we're not moving the teeth any faster. And think about also just the level of pain. And every time you land and take off, the patient has to show up. And I think like the patient is the passenger on the plane. You've got to get off the plane and you've got to go find a bathroom. You got to go do all this stuff. And then you got to get back on the plane and go through that line. And there's stress with each one of those things. And as a parent, imagine having to go to an orthodontic appointment where you leave your office, you drive to the kid's school, you wait in the principal's office for however long while the kid comes down the front desk, you drive to the orthodontist office, hopefully we're running on time and you're not sitting there for too long. 45 minutes goes by and then you're in the car back to the school and then you drive back to your office. And it's a 3-4 hour disruption. And if we're thinking 18 or 19 visits is how long it usually takes to get through the orthodontic process, again, that white paper showed a 35% reduction in office visits. So imagine instead of doing that 18 visits, it's only 12. How much does that free up your time? Time is worth a lot of money, right?
Sure.
And so the patient and the parent really wins in this, in that they're not coming to as many appointments and they're not spending as long in braces. And what we haven't quantified this yet, though we're working on it. But what we can also say is if you ask every one of those 4 offices that were part of the white paper, is their results are so much better, not worse. So you're getting a better result with less time and less visits.
Win-win across the board. Yeah.
Hard for me.
Sure. When you mentioned before across the board, you were 100. Is this working for all types of cases from phase 1 to more complex across the board, and for kids as well as adults? Is basically this is an all-in process that really is going to be changing the way that people think about getting their teeth straightened.
So when we talk about case exclusion criteria for our offices that are implementing this, the answer is the only exclusion for us typically is the phase one. And the reason for that is we're not in a phase one because we have unerupted teeth is usually I'm not doing full torque expression, which is the big benefit of custom. Filling the slot and having that wire fit the bracket so perfectly to deliver exactly the position that you put into the digital setup and having that be duplicated in the real world. That's the benefit of custom. In phase one, I'm not even putting in those big rectangular wires because I don't want to move a lateral incisor and torque it into a canine or anything like that. So you could do it for phase one, but I just would say save your money. It's not worth the extra steps or time for that. But every other type of case, extraction, surgery, Herbst appliance expander, all of the other cases, this becomes, because of the price point, being less than $500 for people who adopt it fully, a case instead of their $200 or $300 they're probably spending on current braces now. At that price differential, if we can save 7 visits, which is what the white paper found, it's worth the extra investment. We know that the ROI of this product is phenomenal. So every one of your patients should be a full custom patient.
Let's ask you to put on your goggles, and we're going to look now at 2024. Where do you see the orthodontic industry in a year from now?
I think economically we're all worried about a potential recession, right? But I think the good news about orthodontics more than anything else is a lot of our patient base is kids. And there's a very finite window when optimal timing is during kind of that growth and development, where we have a window when it's the best time to do braces on a child. And even when we look at some of the other economic slowdowns, is we'd have this kind of like, okay, definitely people stopped getting braces, after that 2008 incident, and we saw some compression there. But when it's their kids, inevitably 6 to 9 months later, we saw all of those people who hadn't done braces came back and did braces for their kids because they knew they had to. Plus, we still have the chronological people that were really ready for treatment. And so with a product like ours, where we're because we're metal and clear, and we kind of service the adolescent and the adult market with our product. As a company, we're not too worried about it because we know that people are going to invest in their kids even when economics and financial. Now, is adult treatment going to be impacted? If that's the case, if we do see a recession, I think absolutely, right? We'll postpone things for ourselves more than we will for our kids. So on a high level, I would say that's kind of been my experience in the past, and I have a feeling it'll ring true again.
So you started off as obviously a trained orthodontist and became an entrepreneur. What's one bit of advice you would give somebody who hasn't wants to take the same approach and they want to start a technology company, put the entrepreneur hat on, don't want to be practicing this anymore? What's one bit of advice that you would give somebody?
Holy cow! Avoid it if you can. I guess what I would say is what I didn't realize getting into this is because I had that consulting role with Dentsply, and I really got to understand the behind the scenes engineering processes, and I got to understand the go to market with like a product marketing manager. I kind of got a pretty good sense of what I needed to do to bring a product to market because of those interactions.
Right.
What I didn't know is the venture debt and venture financing and the startup fundraising terminology and just the complexity of it. And so, you get dropped in the deep end of how do you actually fund a company like this? And now it's, I've learned a lot and I feel really, really confident in that regards, but it doesn't happen overnight. And on top of that, then you got regulatory. You need to be an expert in regulatory process. You need to be an expert in intellectual property, patenting, trademarking. And so, there's so many things that I didn't know I needed to learn before I kind of took off on this endeavor. And so just realize that it's the bandwidth. You're going to have to learn so many different things that you don't even need to, to know about. Right. And so, just regulatory, fundraising, and patents. Those are probably the 3 kind of critical foundational ones. Then you've got things like go-to-market strategy, product design, insourcing, outsourcing, contracts law. What's a good contract for OEM?
Being a CEO, isn't it?
It really is crazy. And so, I think to my other colleagues who've kind of done the same thing, they kind of say the same thing is it's a total investment in learning so many new things. And what I'll tell you is financially, I have sacrificed royally up to this point. I mean, if I would have just been an orthodontist and focused on that and growing my practice, I would have made 10x what I've made as a CEO, kind of starting a startup company over the last decade or so. And if possible, I mean, looking at people like Chris Setta, who did a license, they basically licensed a product and had a company manufacture that for them. Man, that's a lower risk, lower lift, and you can so I'd say, like, if you can get some patents filed first, and then try and find and usually it's the smaller orthodontic companies that are looking for differentiation. The big guys, they already have so much inertia and momentum that they're going to give you either a really poor contract and not put too many resources behind you. But you can get some of those, like, okay, maybe don't pick the top 4 companies, but maybe the next 6, and see if they're looking for some innovation and product differentiation and ways to position themselves in a market in an interesting way, and see if you can protect yourself with a patent first, but then go to them and see if there's a licensing agreement that makes sense. I think that's a really easy way to get to bring something cool to the market, yet that still be able to leverage the fact that orthodontics is such a great profession. Holy cow. I mean, we're spoiled rotten and we don't even know it. But if you really do say, no, this is the passion that I want to have, I think an incubator program is a really good place to start. Some place where they can sit down with you and kind of formulate just the thought process that you need to put into developing your product as a company.
Okay, great. We've got 3 final questions for you, Brandon. Question 1 is, if somebody's interested in learning more about KLOwen and how it could work for their practice, what's the best way for them to do so?
Just our website's probably the best resource we've got for the time being to reach out to us, but it's just www.KLOwenOrtho.com.
Okay.
And you can text message us, and if there's any questions, we can get you in touch with a rep. You can watch some videos and things that we have there as an easy reference. But usually the best way is to sit down with one of our sales team and really get in. We want to figure out, is this a good fit? What I can tell you, having started a company now, is we get sometimes we try and sell this product to people who maybe aren't ready for this product yet. It's just any sell is a good sell, right? And I think what we've learned now that's so critical is, are we the right fit for you today? Because there's a pain point to the doctor, to the staff, to the whole process, right? Change fatigue is a really real thing. And so why are you looking at this technology? And our salespeople can kind of walk through, why do you want this? Is it because you want to work less and make the same amount of money? Is it because you really want to scale up your practice a lot and have yourself differentiated in the market? Those are offices that we'd say, oh yeah, you'd be a great fit. You're going to see massive value right away out of this. If you say, we're changing our practice management software, we've got a brand new staff, we've got all these other things, and there's so much chaos in the office already, I'd say, okay, wait, maybe call us in 6 months.
If you could recommend to somebody one bit of information or education that you have learned over the last several years, albeit a book or a show or something like that, what's something that you could recommend for somebody to read or watch or listen to that has really helped you in your journey?
So if you want to go out and start fundraising, there's a book out of the Foundry group called Venture Deals, and that is kind of the go-to Bible for how to raise money, the different kind of terms, and market always changes a little bit, but Venture Deals is probably for someone who's thinking about being a CEO and starting some bootstrapping campaigns of fundraising or ready for their Series A. That's the one place that in the VC world, I say that's a great starting point and foundation, and it's a really quick, easy read.
Cool. And the most important question. All right. So I just got a text as we're talking here that an asteroid's hitting Earth in about 3 hours. So you got to quickly run around and put together your last meal. What is it?
Oh man, that's a really good question. the reality is it's probably like just a whole chocolate cake. The worst sweet in the world. Everyone.
What kind? Is it homemade? Is it Entenmann's? Is it like what are you putting in it?
Yeah, homemade for sure, all the way.
Awesome. Good.
All right.
So I guess if we're going to segment there, if you say chocolate cake, so now I got to ask you an even more important question. All right, when you're saying chocolate, you ever just get a sweet tooth. So if you more importantly, Hershey bar or Reese's?
Oh, Reese's.
Are
you talking like the Reese's Pieces or Reese's Peanut Butter Cup?
No, Reese's Peanut Butter Cup.
Oh, yeah, the Reese's Peanut Butter Cup.
Okay.
Reese's Pieces are rubbish, but yeah.
Exactly. Good answer. Great. Oh, awesome. All right, Brandon, thanks so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. This was great. Guys, if you want to, obviously learn more about, this technology, please visit the website, KLOwenOrtho.com. I've done a lot of research, and this is a great program to take a look at for your practice. You always have to adapt. If you listen to my podcast, you'll hear that I mentioned adapt or die a gazillion times. One of the best quotes ever. And something that you need to always keep an eye on in your industry as far as what's trending, what's going to make you better and more efficient and give you better results. You need to offer the best results that are going to make your patients smile and happy and make their life easier. And this right here is something that could do it. So, Brandon, thanks so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. Everybody in podcast land, thanks so much for listening. This is Dean Steinman, and as the great Jerry Garcia said, nothing left to do but smile, smile, smile. All right, thanks so much, Brandon.
Thank you.
OrthoMarketing.com. 360-degree digital marketing solutions for your practice.